Hey guys, welcome back to Match It Up with TJ, and in this video we're going to talk about what a percent is and how to find it. The prefix per literally means for every or for each. And the word cent simply means 100. So if we put that together, the word percent means how many out of 100. So 3% would be 3 out of 100. 40% would be 40 out of 100. 100% would be 100 out of 100. And we would call that a whole fraction. And 125% would be 125 out of 100. And we would call that an improper fraction. So let's look at this example on this grid. It says what percent of the grid is shaded? I've got a 10 by 10 grid here, and we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 8 shaded squares. 48 squares shaded out of 100 total squares. And if I wanted to find that percent, I know that percent is how many out of 100. So we've got 48% of the squares are shaded. Now what happens if I've got a fraction that does not have 100 as my denominator? What we would do here is we want to create an equivalent fraction. Now in order to create an equivalent fraction, we would simply multiply the top number and the bottom number by the same number. For example, if I multiplied both of these numbers times 4, I would get 8 over 20. 2 over 5 and 8 out of 20 have the same value represented by different numbers. So if I wanted to figure out what percent 2/5 and 8/20 was, I would need an equivalent fraction that had a denominator of 100. In order to do that, I need to find which number I can multiply by 5 or by 20 to get to 100. Let's use 5. What number can I multiply by 5 and get 100? Well, I know that I can do 5 times 20 is 100. And if I multiply it by 20 on the bottom, I have to multiply it by 20 also on the top. And we get 2 times 20, and that's going to give us 40. So I know that 2/5 and 8 over 20 both equal 40%. Because we were able to create an equivalent fraction that had a denominator of 100. Let's look at 7/20. Remember, percent is how many out of 100. And what I need to do is create an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 100. I need to figure out what number I can multiply by 20 to get to 100. And I know that 20 times 5 will get me 100. And I need to multiply that same number by the top. So if I do 7 times 5, I get 35. So I know that 7/20 as a percent is 35%. My next example, I've got 96 over 300. And in order to find the percent, I need to create an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 100. Now the previous examples, to get from one number to the other, we multiplied. But 300 is bigger than 100. So instead of multiplying, I know that we need to divide because we need to go smaller. We need to get smaller. So I know that if I do 300 divided by 3 here, that'll get me 100. And I need to do the same thing to the top. I'm going to divide by the same exact number And 96 divided by 3 is going to get me 32. So I know that 96 over 300 is 32%. My next example shows a table, and it has 3 out of 10 total squares shaded. And if I wanted to find the percent, again, we know that percent is how many out of 100. And I'm going to ask myself, how do I go from 10 to 100? And I know that I can multiply by 10. And if I multiplied by 10 on the bottom, I need to multiply by 10 on the top. 3 times 10 is going to give me 30. So 3/10 of this table being shaded gives me 30%. Thanks for mathing it up with me. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next lesson.